What do squares oft? What do they oft do? That's my question. They never answer that.
How oft do squares?
Yeah, what's up? Doing... Oft squares ought. Do square? Or is it rectangle? That's the question.
Be it resolved, as we convene. For what should, within all reason, be the final session, barring outrageous misfortune. Note the time on file.
I see.
Some rituals were performed to prepare.
Seems like it.
I've acquired new tools.
Would you like to hear secrets about the crafting system now? Now that you're probably not going to use it.
I have prepared new tools.
Mm-hmm.
They have gained affinity.
That's a pretty high affinity. A shame that the affinity is on light. But it's probably going to overpower things.
I have assembled some armor.
Mm-hmm.
I have performed rituals to attune this armor. And yeah, light affinity, not the best, but it was a natural side effect of training evil affinity.
Right.
So, worst case scenario, it means that element is having neutral effect against something with 100 light resist.
It actually has 80. It's slightly less than its 90 dark resist, so you might actually gain some
So it's a slight
damage out of it.
positive.
Yeah. If that's how the numbers work, which I'm not entirely sure if they do.
So yeah, this, Cogito Ergo Ire, is the weapon that is a rare drop off of the Minotaur. Went back and fought the Zombull. Acquired a tool.
I'm going to throw this out here as an aside. I just got the Tsuchinoko.
Well
No,
done.
no context, but Tsuchinoko obtained.
Well done. It was real all along.
Of course, everyone knew that. Yes, that is the final form of orb. That actually is not the highest damage form of, like, mace, but it's the largest and probably most useful.
And to better prepare, imagine this, or more precisely this, for some time. Repeated doses of light and dark attacks.
Mm-hmm.
In this very spot. Also learned over the course of that grind, a subtle, quiet thing that's happening in the systems that works to undermine you. Using the heal spell causes affinity pressure.
It increases light affinity and lowers...
Lowers dark
physical.
and lowers physical.
Mm-hmm.
So, supposing nothing else, you will end up slightly weak to dark and slightly less physically robust for having used that.
Now, granted, at the very least in this case, I don't think the final boss actually uses any physical attacks. So, hey, it's pure value there.
Yeah, for Phase 1, there's the physical burst attack, but Phase 1 is
That's
also more susceptible to being crushed by Orb.
Yeah.
And I am going to save state once we're through Phase 1, so there's no real long-term concern there.
Mm-hmm.
Also acquired from that grind, since I destroyed many training dummies, yeah, I have 17 full heals and 15 full mana recovers. Things
That's
are
really
okay.
good.
And yeah, go ahead and discuss how crafting actually works.
Okay, so the basic rule on crafting is... This holds up true for Okay, out of the, like, 14 levels, for example, of the just one-handed sword, for 10 of them, this holds true. It's just tier of weapon combined with lower, like, one tier lower makes tier higher of weapon. So, like, the... I think if I remember... Farangi plus short sword equals tier 6 weapon, which I think is, like, what? That's, I think that was... It's not Falchion. It might have been Scimitar? Or regardless. It makes a slightly stronger one by doing that. That's just the single basic rule of the crafting system, and that holds true for armor as well, up to a point. There's a couple of points in there where it becomes complicated, and then at the higher tiers of them, all you have to do is combine two of the same kind to create the higher tier one. This is actually much easier to do accidentally with shields. Now, there's also a couple of mismatch systems, which is a, like, comparative table thing that actually does have a technically consistent internal logic about how one weapon type combined with another weapon type always creates of this kind of weapon type. And it's all very complicated and not very useful unless you're doing absurd setups.
Also, I'm happy to see that someone probed about. I have, in fact, each session been going and looking up the current price of silver and updating the knife accordingly.
Excellent.
I'm not sure which exchange it's giving me this silver price from, but it's a rate somewhere as of time of recording. Is this even the right direction to be going?
You could just teleport to the final...
I can just teleport to the final save point, right.
Yeah.
I don't need to traverse this again.
With all the weirdness involved in teleporting, at least it exists.
Yes.
It doesn't need to have its mana cost, like a mana cost at all, and shouldn't probably, but not even probably, it definitely shouldn't. But it does.
I would be fine with it having mana cost if mana were just slightly less scarce.
Yeah, it's very scarce, and that's annoying.
You have exactly not enough mana. Short by an orb. And yeah, there's that whole bonus dungeon that I didn't delve into, the Iron Maiden.
Yeah, it's a bonus dungeon. It's just full of enemies of various types. Like, there's the level, I think both 2 and 3 Wyvern in there, for instance.
Oh wait, that's Curse, not any of the other status effects. Yeah.
The thing is, there's kind of no reason to do it outside to get a couple of items, because the bonus dungeon actually only has 1 floor on New Game. You can't go into New Game Plus's second floor. There's just a point in which you have to turn back and leave.
Also, probably more importantly than putting on clothing and giving it positive magic attunement, I noticed I had these rune earrings, and those have light, dark, evil, the rest of the elements, and a little bit of int defense.
Yeah, that probably would have helped.
Yeah, overall, probably the most useful accessory I have for this situation.
It's pretty much overall the most useful accessory in non-New Game Plus. I distinctly remember the rune earring being a thing.
Also, so yeah, I suppose the chest key is a New Game Plus thing?
It's actually in Iron Maiden, level 1. You could get that. It's just, there's nothing outstandingly good in the chest key chests, unless you're doing
I have
complex.
what I need.
Yeah. Unless you're doing complex combining shenanigans.
Alright, so I suppose then, if the trick about crafting is about recognizing the tiers of things and stepping up accordingly. Then materials just set different baselines for attributes and affinity, just small offsets underneath that.
Yep. Silver has a slight intelligence bonus on damage, so all silver weapons are better than steel and bronze and iron at magic. Damascus has better both. Both of them are, like, Damascus weapons are the best on that front, period.
So what's the formula for that, then? I found steel early. I found silver very late.
Okay, Damascus, you cannot... I don't think you can create Damascus, barring a couple of specifics, like, things where you can combine... I think bronze and silver together will make Damascus in very specific situations. But also, bronze and silver together, you can't do that in New Game.
Yeah, there's no shop for that.
Yeah, there is one in New Game Plus. There's a shop in New Game Plus that just has everything.
I will say, to this game's credit, that not figuring out how to reliably step weapons up tiers didn't really limit me until the very final moments.
Mm-hmm.
All my weapons remained viable on figuring out just a little bit of material transmutation and then just building affinities on them.
That's part of why I say that if you master exactly one system in this game, you can beat it. Because, yeah, you didn't get anything at all with, well, not anything at all. That's giving telling you disservice. You didn't get the like the weirder things about the crafting system, and that was okay. You didn't need to.
Yeah, letting this play out again. Just to review, at the end, what the plot has been about. Which also, I'll put the plot to its credit. This has been an alright story.
Yeah.
I like that it's a very small story against a large backdrop.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bunch of big ideas invoked very early or on the side that are then background noise to about 6 people in this city and the conflict between them.
Yeah.
And that it's just weird that it's mostly not Ash. Ash is mostly a spectator to these events, rather than involved in driving them.
Importantly, like, they don't drop the background. It's just not as important. It's not necessarily, like, super important for the game. Like,
what of Parliament? What of Parliament? That's not what this is about anymore.
Yeah. Parliament hasn't been involved for a while, actually. I think that Guildenstern could probably use a better motivation, because it's just another, you know, religious figure who wants to fix
Become
the
as
country.
gods!
Yeah. Which is exactly the same plot as in, like, all of Yasmat's games. Like, straight up.
Alright, so he's doing 86 to individual body parts at the moment. And okay, yeah, non-zero damage without any buffs or debuffs applied with the orb.
And remember that that move is physical damage, the last section. Claiming that the thing that created a big yellow golden laser explosion, saying that was light physical damage, not a lie or goof. That's just true.
Yasmat probably, like, single or dual-handedly a sizable driver of Kill the Gods being the final plot point of JRPGs.
To an extent, yeah. Like, a lot of famous games that he worked on definitely had that as a thing. Although later on, like in his later games, he dropped that entirely. Like,
Right, I'm still paralyzed. I should fix that. Also, put blood back in my body. But anyway, the second half of that statement is that for him, it's also usually a matter of having supernatural elements in the story, but also putting them in a human context. You're usually killing a god because they turned out to be trash, and you should depose them as though they were a bad ruler.
Right.
Or, there were some things about this power structure that were misleading, ideologies that weren't in line with what was actually practiced by the people preaching them, etc., etc. Here's a church that's corrupt. Beat them up and take their stuff. So there's going to be a fair amount of peril here in Phase 1.
Ideally, there will be less peril in Phase 2.
When
just
physical
have to deal
stops
with the-
appearing.
Yeah. Albeit, we're gonna have to be dealing with less peril, but more annoyance. With how the final
Yes.
boss actually works.
Pretty sure I de-equipped the stun ward as well. Yeah, what are my defense chains right now? Siphon Soul, Impact Guard, and Demon Scale. Yeah, we got some nice theming going on here in the fight. Our opponent who has too many edges, and we who have no edge.
Yes. Well, big ol' ball of steel is a kind of edge. It counts as a blade, so why not, right?
I am surprised we're not dead from that. I'm not putting much stock in calling the orb an edge, calling the orb a blade, when the body of a crossbow is also called a blade, as far as the mechanics are concerned.
While the bolts are considered the grip. You know, Ashley just fires the entire bow through the arrow. It's fine.
Yes. Right, wrong item. It was a chortle. I wanted a... yeah, Trace Tears. I have not prepared a ranged weapon for the final boss. I've prepared... Have you seen the reach on this thing? It is a ranged
You
weapon.
prepared a ranged weapon for this final boss. The Hand of Light has such a ridiculous range for it that it functions. It's not quite as long as the crossbow reach. It is still very long.
I have spells. This also has less risk building than a crossbow.
Yeah.
Although at this point, that's comparatively fake. It's the final moments. I'm ready to vent all of my items.
Yeah, there's one weird thing about risk level. Weapons do generate more risk the higher up you go, as far as like tiers go. There's gonna be a tier where suddenly things that did 1 do 2 instead, and it ends off on 3. Crossbows, I think, end up on 4. They end up doing 4 on the basic attack.
The sorceress reagent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, phase 1.
Alright then.
And let this play out again. This is the sound of descending into the void, I guess.
Yeah.
The steel drum of the abyss. Young Marco Riot.
Yes. Good old Marcus SWAT cop.
reflexively drawing the orb. Alright, begin. Well, let's see how hard this hits. Nice!
That is less. That's actually
Nice.
quite significantly less.
That's manageable.
Yeah. Like, that was at least 60 less HP damage. Off of that.
Although, was that the dark attack or the light attack?
That was the dark attack.
Alright, so the light one will hit worse. But,
Yeah.
probably not that
uses
much
light
worse.
too.
After the equivalent of 25 real-time hours of smashing Ash in the face with meteors, slightly better odds. And yeah, no damage, no damage, no damage anywhere. Damage is fake. Damage is very dead. And in fact, given what I'm up against, I'm just gonna go ahead and fully dehumanize here with regards to save states.
Ah, okay, you're gonna go for it. Numbers them. Yeah, the only real way to do actual physical damage to them is with basically with the highest level, either two-handed mace or axe, because there's the highest raw damage numbers that you can get in non-New Game Plus. Technically, the highest level two-handed sword does better, but that only drops off a single enemy out of 3 out of 200 high rate. So, good luck for that on that.
That time it only hit 2 body parts. Weird.
It can hit anywhere between just 1 and 3, I think. Depends on where it aims it.
But that's another thing where the systems kind of fail to live up to their own promise. That, we have this idea of, like, shot geometry and locational damage, and almost every spell is so big it hits all of you regardless.
Even the level 1 one, if you put it in just the right place, you can hit all 5 parts of you, and the enemies always do, so...
If it weren't for that, the grind would have been even more arduous. Alright, yeah, 80s. For light damage. This is survivable. The default cursor location is exactly at Ash's center mass and hits all of it with a level 1 burst.
Even though they are larger, according to their visual effect, those moves actually have a smaller hit radius. So they actually can hit not all of Ash.
At least all the downtime means I'm passively bleeding some risk. Also, yes, for anyone who didn't encounter the first introduction to this boss, it's garbage. It has arbitrarily high speed with which to put itself wherever it feels like in this game that's otherwise been about deliberately positioning yourself and managing your distance to get opportunities to hit things.
This boss deliberately breaks the game's own rules in a way that's really obnoxious and really shouldn't.
You have no way to respond to this.
Yeah.
You get permission to attack it every couple of moves when it gets close.
Yeah, and then it will use a debuff on you, so then you have to clear that off.
The helpful thing I didn't know about until during the grind, there is a notification you can turn on to be informed every time your affinities change in any direction.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty nice. How much health did you say this thing has?
666. It's got that good beast number.
A Dracula.
Yeah. I think that might have been because this game is relatively low. I think part of the reason why his like defenses are so stupidly astronomically high is purely they wanted to have that be the thing and have that as an HP number at the end. And they didn't want to make it so it would go down super easily because that's not even that much, like, that's less than the dragons in the Grand Cathedral have. So they made its defenses stupid high instead.
Bludgeon.
Oh, is it doing it?
Well, those are numbers.
Yeah, so, this is why I said you really should want to have the reaction command that for Dark. It's for this attack that is basically unsurvivable. It's very unsurvivable. Like, even on New Game Plus with stupid armor, it's just stupid. This attack is dumb. You have to do this.
Extensive earlier remarks about defense timings on things with unknown animations.
Yep. Yeah.
No consistent language for where the defense timing goes in the animation. And sometimes active attempts to fake you out with overly long animations that seem like they're ending and then go on.
This is the response.
It is. It's awful.
Yeah, what the hell did I just see?
There is one thing that you can do to actually negate this. This is something that the game never tells you, and like I said before, I think this might actually be a debug thing that they left in. If you use a break art on him while he's flying by you, and only the level 1 break arts can actually reach him, they're the only ones that have the range for it, he will actually stop the attack. He just will go into a different...
So, how do I know he's getting ready?
You just have to be... you just have to kind of get a little lucky. But when he flies over...
the camera zooms up, then we already do. It's like...
Specifically when he flies over you. You know, the really ultra-fast fly over you that he does. I will defend a lot about this game. I will never defend the final boss. It's terrible.
Slow and dead.
Yeah, so you said, I think I joined the call where you were talking about the Dark Elemental Guard in relation to this. Doesn't that just half the damage?
Yes, by restoring
half
the
of that
damage you take
damage
afterwards.
Yeah, it's like the physical guard.
Oh,
yeah. You technically can never die if you have these.
Which would be great if anything about these were fair to use.
Yeah, you're not alone in being sick. I don't know if you can tell, but my voice is really scratchy.
I can, but actually I'm not sick. That's just my cough that I have all the time. I do apologize that you are unwell.
It sounds worse than it is. Earlier this week it sucked. Today it's not so bad.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, so actually though, yeah, let me get the bubble open again. So I can reach over here to the volume mixer and turn down the emulator to like a third of its normal volume that I leave it at.
Because this attack is super loud?
Yes. Of like for almost everything else, I have a ratio worked out that's fine for audio balance of self versus guests versus whatever else. And this has decided to defy that.
This attack is really loud for reasons.
There are no reasons for this.
Now, did I hit the right button? Yes! Okay, alive.
Yeah, fully healed. Oh, almost
And like,
fully healed.
alright, for that spell animation, almost, yeah, full heal, because half of too much damage is all my health.
Yes.
And then some. So like, for that animation, now that I've managed to view it like 4 times in a row and have a think about it, yeah, the timing to hit the button is when they do that quick zoom in on Ash's face.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you hit the button, and not any of the other seemingly climactic moments in your 10-minute destroy the universe JRPG super move animation that you will see too many times.
Yeah. On average, he only uses it once or twice during the fight, but still, yeah.
Yeah.
How do you feel about how this thing looks?
It's fine.
It's actually not bad for a.
It's a fucked up dark light angel
It's also roughly in the shape of the root
of the Okus, of the Blood Brood.
It is in the sphere of
got-
JRPG final boss, but it
Got
is
halos, noodly bits, redundant arms, large hip wings, and tiny like wing placeholders that don't have any feathers on them right now.
Yeah, it's got an orb just in it somewhere for
Yeah,
whatever reason.
just a torso orb.
Hey, excuse me. Oh, I just realized something.
Disconnected
Are you wearing?
bits.
Are you wielding a fucking lamppost that you just ripped out of the floor? What is with
Yes.
that?
It serves justice.
It does.
Does
That's the
it?
highlight.
It's huge.
Yeah, it's the best weapon in the game because it's so big and dumb.
Yes, unfortunately, now that you're fully healed, you've lost your best offense.
Yeah, I
against this thing.
don't have Raging Ache anymore. Have to take some new damage.
At the very least, the chains do add up somewhat because, like, once you get into 9, it's like you've done like 40 damage. Because it's 45 once you get up to 9, right? Because it's just a factorial increase.
I got pretty good at the chain timing on the orb from beating up like 40 practice dummies with the orb.
Mm-hmm. The chest and body, by the way, have the lowest chain defense. In fact, I think the chest has like 12.5 maybe, not that high.
What throws you off at first with this is because it's so large, he's like done swinging it before the actual hit happens almost. You're pressing the button during the follow through. So what does the wine do?
Oh, that's just more elixirs, basically.
It's to get you drunk.
It's like, it's elixir of strength and all that. They've
Just
actually
as
got a
wine.
better range. It's 1 through 5, as opposed to 1 through 4. Yeah, they're better elixirs, is all they are. You only find a handful of them in the game. There's like 6 total.
I left them sitting around expecting they'd be some sort of key item, since the wine cellar is the first area, so you'd have to like, loop back after finally finding any of Leomon's famous wine.
Why would a Digimon make wine?
Why wouldn't a Digimon make wine?
Terrier monster, you know that.
Digital wine.
Made from digital brains.
The other thing that will throw you off about the orb is it has different animations for if a target is like above or below you.
Yep.
Yeah, I noticed that.
That's actually true of every weapon type, but it's very, very, very obvious in the case of the two-handed weapons, especially the two-handed maces and axes.
Going for at least an 8 hit on each engagement. Don't want to be here all night.
Plus 8, 36. So yeah.
Yeah, not gonna bother trying to absorb that one since, yes, I want the pain. This is when I feel alive. And also furious button mashing to get another attack opportunity before he zoops off to the moon.
It's kind of like if you get it down just right, this fight doesn't actually take that long because Raging Ache will just do the work for you, but it's still a really annoying fight.
Yet the systems do put an upper limit on how long a fight can take.
Yeah.
Most of the difficulty mounted onto the bad fights has been, here's a stat check to have permission to start wailing on the boss.
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what Raging Ache is for. It's so you can skip that stat check.
Except
Of
how
course.
dead you can be without getting immediately murdered is also a stat check.
That's the thing, though. You start with 255 HP. So, like, increasing that doesn't really help that much on that. It increases the damage you get slightly off of it.
Defense also affects how low your HP can go
Barely.
before you get insta-murdered.
Remember, Loon figured out that actually being naked all the time was a pretty smart plan.
Until I could
That's barely
engineer
passing.
affinity positive armor, which took 20 hours.
Yeah.
Armor was actually a detriment.
And the
I'm
thing
waiting
is,
for an
you gain
exclamation
stats-
mark to appear and tell me this was actually a revenge move. Think fast. But no, I guess it's over. I guess it's over.
Yep. I actually quite like the ending sequence.
Now all of these orcs are homeless, or dead. Or undead. Oh, these two are still out there.
Yep, Tiger and Issa are still... Well, yeah, they were still doing stuff. And also this guy. He's around a little. Still dead, though.
That was a good scene that had nothing to do with anything else that was happening.
Nope, just side plot that has nothing to do with Ashley.
It's like a really good scene of having him spring back to life, very briefly be lucid and sane, and then watching him go mad.
Mm-hmm.
Just spends a moment like, oh, I guess I'm fine, and then the voice is like, they want your skin.
Get him before they get your skin!
Hey, when did the Time Wizards give us our hour back? Is that today?
Maybe?
Yeah, actually, I think it might be. Or there might be... No, it's Sunday, usually, right? So...
I don't know, the Time Wizards decide we deserve the hour back.
I think it's the 4th. It might be today. I'll have to check.
Tomorrow night? Okay.
Fair enough. When it go... Yeah, okay, so 2 a.m. on November 4th. Immediate perfect dating applied to this video.
I really wish they wouldn't steal that hour from us, honestly.
Yeah, most people agree. Also, business agrees, pretty much.
Wasn't it done for business sakes?
Done for very specific business reasons that were relevant a century ago and haven't been for ages.
Yeah.
Because they wanted more daylight hours for markets to stay open or some shit, right?
Yeah,
because oil lights are notably expensive. And no one wanted to shift their schedules an hour.
Are you kidding me? That's why.
So it's easier to instead tell the entire world to slide the clocks back so that daylight slides over into the center of the work hours of your usual 9 to 5.
Yeah, it was just
shifts.
oil. It was just to keep the lights on. It's expensive to keep the lights on.
And it was easier to tell everyone to flip their clocks upside down than to just have fall hours and summer hours at your place of work.
Yeah.
There's the weird persistent myth that it had something to do with farmers. Farmers don't give a shit what number's on the clock. They work with plants and animals that don't know what time is or know anything.
Yeah.
Meat is meat regardless of the hour of day.
But do you think the corn cares about timeliness? It fucking doesn't.
Long and short of it is, part of it is...
Also, by winter, you've harvested all your shit. You have nothing to do on the farm.
We used to work pretty much entirely of, okay, lights out, let's go work, kind of thing.
Sun's up, get working. Sun's down, we're done.
Yeah, we didn't have good, accurate timekeeping for literally most of human history. Like, we had rough timekeeping, but that was it.
Rough timekeeping, mostly sun-based, so it doesn't matter there. And lighting options, all relatively expensive. You need wax, you need oil, you need wood.
Yeah. So, once we introduced accurate timekeeping, we started... Well, there was a lot of different reasons. A lot of this has to do with, abuse of labor and whatnot. Forced to work extensive hours and all that. And yeah. Combine like modern with almost modern, and you have the existence of daylight savings, which hasn't been relevant for over a century.
And then got adopted a bunch, like, I think almost directly because of World War I and large-scale rationing and nationalizing of labor organization that happened alongside that, allowing that to be unilaterally enforced in many nations, and then never lifted. It's an emergency wartime measure that's really dumb, because why don't you just change your schedules instead? Or now that it's the future, and lights don't cost very much,
extremely
just don't change the schedule. Just wake up when you always do, and the sun won't rise until you're already at the office. That's great! You won't be staring at it on the highway.
I bet the Illuminati.
When will Parliament relinquish the myth of daylight savings time?
When will Parliament work on anything with the sun and time? When will Parliament outlaw the sun?
When will we declare war on the sun? This has
don't
been
need
too
the
much.
sun. It tans me. I don't like getting burnt.
If the sun didn't exist, then fire would stop being a problem.
I'm sorry, but you can never defeat the Corn Lobby.
It's true. You can't ever defeat the Corn Lobby. It's literally impossible.
What if I ate it?
That's
That's
actually
doing
feeding
what
the
Corn
Lobby.
wants.
Yeah.
What if I overload corn
How?
Yeah.
with a gun?
Corn is invincible. You can't do it with a gun.
I didn't say what type of gun. Check it out. This is
Oh yeah? What's your answer then for gun?
spin cylinder. This is a Smith and
Wesson.
Wesley's.
All right, so there's your reason for the title of the story of how he then became a wandering ghost adventurer thing.
Yeah. It's the story of the Vagrant.
How the Vagrant came to be.
Yeah.
The origin story.
The Phantom Pain.
The titular hobo, it's Ash, turns out.
Mauling a demon.
Huh.
It has a very, very nice credits theme.
That's getting a little chopped up by emulation. Ooh, look at those lines wobble. This font is not happy to be here.
No, it isn't. Yeah, a good chunk of my gameplay of this game, whenever I do play it, and I do play it every couple of years, it's preparing for the final boss to make a weapon that's dumb and specifically for it.
What's the optimal way?
Just a really big fuck-off weapon that has absurd, like, raw strength. So a halberd, usually, is my plan.
Alright, so be on the lookout throughout the credits. Who is lead cube designer? Who planned the cubes? Were they someone else uninvolved in all other parts of the game?
Was it Yuminori Miura?
Who is the cube smith?
Because cubes were, like, that's the thing you have no complaints whatsoever about.
The cube puzzles were all legit good.
Many of them were very simple early on because, I mean, hey, they have to introduce things.
They started simple, they got complex, they've got complex in ways that communicated their complexity by conservation of detail. The times that I got hitched up on any cube puzzle for a while was when I looked at a part of it and thought, well, this does nothing, and I was wrong. And had to look for how those boxes were relevant, because they wouldn't be there if they weren't relevant.
It was really nice of them. I never
In fact, use every cube.
That's a good way to deal with puzzles, where it's like, they ask you a lot. Okay, we will give you only the things you need. There are no other
To identify the goal, what you would need to build to reach that goal, and then how do all of these parts send things there? Or work from the other direction, what is the only thing I could do with this arrangement of cubes? That must contribute something, or else the cubes wouldn't exist. Also the one where I just wasn't aware that you could shove a cube that was in the high register.
Yeah, that's like
you
the
may
one
shove
thing
an
they don't
upper
really...
cube rather than just a lower cube.
Yeah, it's kind of like the one thing they don't really tell you much about, unless you read... Apparently, yeah, I do remember reading the thing did say you could push one halfway up and halfway down on one unit, I think is what it was.
A cube manual.
Yeah, there was a cube manual.
Which I went back to on encountering each new cube to learn the rules of that cube.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, there's a cube manual?
Yes.
Yeah, there's actually a very in-depth and pretty good manual in this game that they provide in the game itself. You don't have to have a physical manual.
In the options. The manual is there.
A lot of things were in there that never need the game explained at all.
Yeah, art's nice. Sounds nice. I like how often there isn't music. There's a lot of good spooky ambiance in places.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate when games do that. Like, you don't always have to have a BGM going, but you do have to have sound design, so it's not just totally silent and garbage.
And I understand your gripes with the game's mechanics. This is one of those games that is much better on a second playthrough, for instance. Which makes them annoying on a first playthrough a lot of the time.
I don't know. I feel like the game would be a lot better if they just completely ripped out the combat mechanics and replaced them with something else.
I like the combat mechanics when you understand them completely.
I think if it was more exposed to tell you about the timing, or they made the timing less strict, or something, just to make it faster and more reliable to people who don't.
Oh, so wait, was the lady in the intro, the dancer, was that supposed to be the Mulenkamp high priestess
yes.
of the old cult from the old days?
Yep, that's Mulenkamp, the dancer.
Was Ashley's family real or not? He isn't sure and has no way to determine one way or the other, so he's just not going to let that grief control his life and move on regardless.
He's not going to ignore that it happened or didn't happen, but he is
Something
going to...
happened that was unpleasant, but he's not going to be chained to it.
Yeah. Ash is, as a character, actually pretty good. He's very focused and determined, and he has his demons, but they're also, like, the way that they're resolved is pretty nice.
I like what the combat system tries, it just needs tuning. It was tuned into a rude position. It could be adjusted into something more approachable, tolerable, and feedbackable.
This is extremely a game that would unbelievably benefit from a remake.
Yes.
Or a second installment that...
Yeah.
It's part of the family of experimental things from this era that tried interesting things that were then never followed up on because nature of media industry means some successful seed item will be selected and then copied ad nauseum, mutating a little bit, but only that will continue until some especially large disaster kills that dead and now executives are afraid of it and will never touch it again. That's the media life cycle.
This game did sell reasonably well for a PS1 game. It ended up as a greatest hits, for instance. It was reviewed very well. So it's like, it didn't have a poor showing, but it didn't have any, like, strong cultural, like, grip, is the thing.
Our European friends, in quotation marks, sounds very menacing. That's like the hit squad you bring in Act 3 of a Bond movie.
Our European friends, Parliament!
Or like, that's the vague off-camera menacing presence that you're smuggling the bomb to.
Mm.
So, if you had to assign Vagrant Story an arbitrary number from any system you feel like, what would it be?
Cube out of 10.
16, no reference whatsoever to what the scale is.
I'd give it a B.
It's a good number.
This is a solid D in Hex.
Okay, alright.
Destroyer! And
yes,
a full quarter of the map in optional areas I didn't touch.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of optional game. The thing is that you actually couldn't get 100%. The game has plenty of optional stuff that is only New Game Plus. Part of it is, you know how Ashley he has the thing on his back now.
You'll be able to open things that were inaccessible before.
Yes, exactly. There are some things that are there's like a couple of gates in the game that were locked with the Rude Aeokus, I think is what it was. Those are now all openable.
Also, yeah, Warrior has it right there. Okay, I give it a +7 versus humans, -3 versus beasts,
Okay, yeah.
+22 versus undead, +1 versus phantom, 0 v dragon, and so forth.
And +35 versus cube.
Strong fire affinity, weak to wind.
22 blunt, but actually it doesn't have access to that because your hilt actually limits the blunt to 11. So, oh yeah, that was actually a thing. There's actually a multiplier that weapons have attached to them based off of what hilt you have. Some hilts have better stats versus.
Yeah, I noticed that hilts had affinity for the damage types in them, or is that further separate from that?
No, it's mainly that. It's pretty much just how. That's like another small multiplier added on depending on the enemy, basically, and it becomes increased and more extreme depending on the stat of that hilt.
Oh right, there are
The
more
weird
track
thing is-
modes. I saw one of those while waiting for it. Let's go ahead and slam reset there. Just look at the rest of those instead of probing New Game Plus. It's there. It's the start again, but you have all your stuff.
You don't actually. You have all your stats.
Alright. Acceptable.
Which means you could go through it and punch a lot.
Yes. That'd be another thing, if your body was allowed to pick up affinities. I can appreciate it staying neutral as like a control mechanism, but nude mode would be an interesting playstyle to support.
Yeah. It works on New Game
just gonna
Plus
temper
ones,
my
basically.
flesh into steel. Function of dragons, and your hand will pierce dragons.
Like, if your body could pick up affinity, but only positive affinities, right?
Yes.
Like, you would never get negative affinity. That would be a system that would make a lot of sense to me.
Like, the other, like, prime example people get reminded of learn by doing dynamic growth systems, Final Fantasy II, the remake of it removed down pressure on stats entirely, because it turns out that's just never good in practice. Everyone assumes it's a thing that should be in there, but it just ends up bad and creates the risk of having your character lose value from stimuli, and that's just never pleasant. Down pressure should maybe just not be there, or not be able to take you into negatives from neutral, or otherwise have some kind of control mechanism on it.
Down pressure, like in everyone's favorite game, Unlimited Saga.
Yeah, of note, I think that's the only Saga game that has down pressure. All the others learned Final Fantasy II's lesson. They just
That makes
forgot
sense.
it.
I'm looking forward to one day playing a Saga game that's good. I'll play Minstrel Song eventually for certain.
Minstrel Song is very good.
I don't know if I'll play like any of the SNES ones or nothing, but I'll definitely play Minstrel Song.
Track
at
mode
least.
2, Ashley's briefing.
Yep.
And what Sydney's public demands were as an abductor and terrorist.
There's a lot of these track modes, and they actually give a lot of facts about the plot.
Rare
that you would not
sight of
know
a
otherwise.
middle-aged woman in a JRPG.
Yeah.
Look
She
at
has a
this
name.
PS1 Judi Dench over here.
She's like an Inquisitor, too. Like, she's the same rank as... she's a higher rank than Callow, for instance. Like, she's actually an important character in the background story. She just doesn't appear in the game otherwise.
There's too many gods. When will Parliament regulate the number of temples?
Oh, what about all of these cultists? Parliament has a bunch of cultists in it, but...
My God, Have you seen Christianity? It's a mess. There's so much of it. We need to make one of them tournaments legal.
Tournament legal Christianity.
Thunderclaps are actually pretty fucking stylish.
This game is very stylish. Ignoring everything else about it, it is the best looking PS1 game. I would argue that. Best looking 3D PS1 game.
Also, to revisit some statements from earlier about Kill the Gods plots, they come up in Yasmat's work because he remembers that religious organizations were political actors throughout history.
Yes.
On par with the aristocracy. And so he writes that into his plots. So yeah, this cardinal, he's dangerous. He's an important figure in this bizarro early modern world. He has a lot of money and a lot of lands and a lot of connections. He's a big deal. He has a private army of knights that he can send out as a hit squad to do things.
These attract modes are actually surprisingly long, too.
Yeah, there's a lot going on here. You'd figure this would have been the mandatory opening cutscene, but this is all optional.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same
The
thing.
game's most famous lines, too, is actually in this right here.
Also, to address an elephant in the room, since it's coming up in the chat, chaps are not pants.
Nope.
The phrase
They're
assless
chaps.
chaps is redundant. Chaps aren't pants, they're leg guards for riding, to keep your legs from getting shredded by plants and foliage and rocks while you're riding through rough terrain.
Yeah, so the game's most famous line actually is in this attract mode. It's the reinforcements, I am the reinforcements, right there. The game's most famous line in the attract mode that most people haven't seen.
The most famous line no one's heard about.
Not like it's like always on. If you're going to give like one line description of from a game and something like that, it's always the one that's used for this game. But actually finding that line is weird and hard.
Alright, so do we have a third attract mode? With the intro, we have first loop attract. What else have we got? Because there's probably some gameplay footage in here. Some demo. Maybe some explanation. Hold on. Ash Riot has murdered a member of Parliament? What?
The Duke?
What? Was there a frame-up plotline that was completely dropped in the body of the game?
I've never seen that before. That might actually only pop up once you've beaten the game once. I think that might have been like explanation of like why Ash is now basically have to wander around. Because
the cover
Duke
up.
is dead, and they needed to blame it on someone, so they blamed it on Ash, kind of thing.
But he, like, died of old in his bed, and everyone expected that.
He was technically completely fine yesterday.
Everyone who was in daily contact with him knew that.
Or maybe this is what the Cardinal told his knights?
Maybe. I honestly have no idea what's up with that.
It's in the instruction manual and you track. Oh.
We weren't working for the Duke, we were working for Parliament, in which the Duke has much influence.
Because
But from the briefing, we were working for folks who weren't fond of him. So what, is Attract Mode 2 the sequel hook for the never-made follow-up?
Maybe? I don't know. There was an announced follow-up at one point, and there actually does exist a like piece of concept art would have been like its title screen. Title art. It had a mono art on the title art, for instance. But that was it. That's the only thing we've ever heard of the sequel of this game. There was minor rumors it was going to be on the PSP.
This rumor of a dragon, and a golem, and a crab, and a crab, and a crab.
And a crab.
Why are there so many crabs?
There were 2 crabs. They were great. Both of them were fine boss fights.
Can we get a lap 3? What else you got? Oh, and engraved on the rings here is that opening blurb about the soul and meat.
Alright, we must despise, destroy, and murder men.
Yes.
Yes. The soul, which desires thirst for blood at all times.
Back to headquarters. 0:24 a.m. Yeah, so that's it.
Yep.
Briefing, mysteries. Yeah, Sydney and the Duke were sort of covertly working together. Sydney, actually the Duke's elder son,
Mm-hmm.
and thus inheritor of their cursed bloodline.
Joshua was actually Sydney's younger brother. But that's about it.
The scheme to put an end to their curse and pass off custody of the city to someone else worthy.
Mm-hmm.
There's too many gods. Who can keep track of them all?
One of these days we're gonna ban religion.
People keep using saints for tax evasion.
How are we
Despicable.
going to get paid if these saints keep on not giving us money?
So the Supreme Court of Valendia rules that corporations can be beatified and rendered sacred ground.
Of course, Saint McDonald.
Oh, God, no.
Saint Wendy.
Saint Walmart.
Saint Amazon.
I mean, on the one hand, it's further magnified the influence that corporations have over the workings of our government. On the other, the entire postal service is now protected from vampires. Every
was a
package
problem.
is a holy implement that repels the Walking Dead. Thankfully, the Duke was conveniently away from the battlefield at the time. At exactly the time that the attack was going down. He had just left, and then just returned. When they're showing him from the side and doing that, partially lit effect, the mouths don't quite line up. Because there's two separate copies of his face texture on the two different lighting levels. So you can see his complete mouth on the lit part, and then his mouth again on the shadow, doubled up. Anyway, Vagrants. Parliament.
Parliament.
Story of Parliament.
Finally adjourned.
Agreed.
Weird that the song keeps playing if you skip that intro instead of skipping to the end? Or stopping? Also weird that doing that, once again, caused the entire title screen to be drawn. Instead of being cut off. These are the mysteries.
The game emulates weirdly.